Robbery in progress. All cars in area reported.
Every day, hundreds of thousands of patrolmen report for duty, armed with a badge and the latest in video technology. You are about to witness their never-before-seen footage. Their stories, caught on tape. Now, on disorderly conduct, an SUV flips and rolls. A suspect jumps and runs. A troubled woman is tased and confused. This clerk has his hands full with two knife-wielding robbers. While this officer gets an earful from an angry drunk.
You're under arrest for DWI.
Mr. Hero, why are you such a mother alien?
Buckle up for some out-of-this-world disorderly conduct. It's a lazy afternoon along Interstate 96 in Weberville, Michigan. Sheriff's Deputy Kimberly Potts keeps her dash-mounted camera on just in case the unexpected happens. Up ahead, a young woman in an SUV is on her way to a Pearl Jam concert. Both ladies are enjoying an easy journey on this open road under crystal clear skies. Then out of the blue, everything changes. The car in the right lane suddenly veers into the SUV. When the young woman turns to get back on the highway, her vehicle flips over and rolls a terrifying 8 times. Deputy Potts makes the wise decision to help the victim rather than worry about the driver who just hit her. The 16-year veteran is almost certain she's going to have to call the coroner. To her amazement, the young woman is still alive, although she is seriously injured. The suspect never returned to the accident scene, and the search continues to identify him. Even though another vehicle was entering the interstate on the far right, police say there was no reason for the suspect to hit the SUV. As for the young woman at the wheel, she has several broken ribs and a large cut on her head. But incredibly, she survives the ordeal. Luckily, she was wearing her seatbelt. Officers near Houston, Texas are in hot pursuit of an armed man and woman who reportedly just carjacked a pickup truck and shot a policeman. The violent pair is desperate and dangerous, and they still have plenty of bullets. A pursuing patrol car gets up close behind the suspect. It's a gutsy move, and it comes with a price. At the far right of your screen, a gun is thrust out of the window by a woman in the passenger seat. No one is hit, but no one is stopping either. And now the chase is a running gun battle. The pursuit moves onto the freeway, but police bullets have flattened the truck's right rear tire. The pickup truck, its rear tire shredded, loses control and nearly takes out one car. But slams into a truck before crashing into the divider. The driver is out of the pickup in an instant, jumps the divider and runs. Police pull his girlfriend from the passenger seat. The driver is found hiding moments later and is also arrested. The gun-toting couple, who showed no regard for anyone in this crime spree, is charged with attempted capital murder and aggravated robbery. Fortunately, the officer shot earlier by these armed carjackers makes a full recovery. The Villages is a quiet retirement community in the state of Florida. But today, residents here are in a state of shock. 3 men inside that red van are suspects in a home invasion shooting that left an elderly woman dead and her husband injured. To make matters worse, the suspects have stolen the couple's vehicle and their kidnapped daughter is inside. The trio tears down the 2-lane highway with a silver unmarked police car in close pursuit. They cut in front of cars, slide through signals, and dart across dirt. Finally, an officer in a gas station parking lot throws out a spike strip. Seconds later, a cop connects with a pit, the precision immobilization technique. The van careens into the parking lot where it hits 2 cars. One suspect is thrown from the van and is trapped underneath, while 2 others make a quick escape. Those 2 are quickly caught off camera. And now attention turns to the owner of those 2 feet. Once an officer realizes the man's not seriously injured, he's taken into custody. The suspects are now captured, but what about the kidnap victim? She's still inside the van, shaken, but not seriously injured. In the end, the men are charged with first-degree murder, armed kidnapping, and resisting arrest. But all involved know it could have been even worse, especially when they find a .25 caliber handgun underneath the van. Next up on Disorderly Conduct, a sleepy suburb gets a rude awakening. And a woman tempts fate, but catches some brakes as she dashes down the interstate. There's lots more disorderly conduct coming your way. There's a very dangerous situation up ahead on this Texas freeway. That's a disoriented woman staggering about next to 70-mile-an-hour traffic near Forest Hill in the Lone Star State. The officer blocks traffic with his car, and she approaches. But just when it looks like it might come to a safe conclusion, the woman dashes across the freeway into traffic. The deputy chases after her. Fearing for his own safety, the officer runs back to his car to call for backup. There she is, running in the fast lane. And she steps in front of a car. With his car blocking lanes, the officer takes off again. But she escapes. There's no sign of her. The call goes out that she's jumped the center divider and is now on the other side of the interstate. Another officer drives onto that side of the freeway against oncoming traffic. It's a horrifying sight. There she is, right in the middle of the road. The officer drives slowly along the shoulder against the traffic to keep her in sight. Traffic stops, and suddenly, the officer tases her. The woman hits the ground hard. Another officer runs up and cuffs the woman. A passerby tends to the woman's head wound she suffered in the fall. Moments later, an ambulance arrives to take the lady for medical treatment. After having her head wound treated at the hospital, the woman is charged with being in possession of a controlled substance, but she is lucky to have escaped this bizarre incident with her life. The great thing about surveillance cameras is that they can show all sides of a crime in progress. But sometimes they show a side you'd rather not see. In this case, it's the backside of this thief in an Omaha, Nebraska tobacco store. Apparently, he dropped his drawers while slipping through some bars on the front door. Unfazed by his dilemma, the man coolly collects from the cash registers. In the end, the bare-bottomed bandit gets away. But police are hoping someone will recognize him from either his front side or his backside. Police respond to a 911 call from a motorist who claims the driver of the black car up ahead pointed a gun at her. Rowlett, Texas is a relatively peaceful place, with only one officer-involved shooting in the past decade. But this patrolman wisely proceeds with caution. He follows the suspect as he turns onto a residential street. The officer makes his move, and so does the suspect. The suspected gunman floors it, with the patrol car hot on his tail. He races down the residential streets, blowing through stop signs as he tries to shake police. But he's obviously unfamiliar with the neighborhood and turns onto a dead-end street. Suddenly, the suspect opens fire and a gun battle erupts. It ends with the gunman being hit and rolling his car into the dead-end barricade.
We're dead end. Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands right now!
The gunman survives this wild shootout and is charged with attempted capital murder of a police officer. Still to come on Disorderly Conduct. A man on the run carjacks a new ride, then dumps the driver out the door. And police make an unexpected house call while chasing down an escaped inmate. We've got the action on Disorderly Conduct. It's a very dangerous pursuit on the outskirts of Los Angeles International Airport. The man is suspected of stealing this pickup truck, and now he doesn't care who he puts in danger. He rams cars, runs red lights, and recklessly slices through traffic. After leading police on a lengthy chase, the man pulls a U-turn and comes to a stop. Then he starts circling the area, leading officers to think this is his home turf. At one point, he appears to yell out to someone. Moments later, he pulls another U-turn and drives slowly down the street. Suddenly, a woman comes running out and attempts to get in the truck, but the man keeps driving and lets her fall to the pavement. Now, almost every television station in Los Angeles is covering the chase live, and hundreds of thousands are watching as the reign of terror continues. By the time he hits the freeway, the pickup has blown a tire and sparks fly from a wheel well. As the driver makes a fiery exit toward the airport, he once again decides not to let other cars get in his way. First, he hits a taxi. Then he rams a shuttle bus. But this is far from over. The man jumps out of the pickup and commandeers a van. The driver tries to escape, but he's caught in his seatbelt. The van travels a short distance. Then the innocent driver is shoved out onto the road. Fortunately, his seatbelt breaks loose, and the van narrowly misses running him over. By nightfall, the man has hit over a dozen cars, caused 2 people to be thrown to the ground, and is in his second stolen vehicle. Finally, he takes one chance too many. After hitting the guardrail, the driver runs across the freeway. Then darts through oncoming traffic. He gets around the cars, but he can't avoid the fence. And now he's the one who's hitting the pavement. The California Highway Patrol quickly closes in and stops this guy for good. Amazingly, no one was seriously hurt in the drama. It's later learned that the woman who ran under the street was the driver's sister, who was pleading with him to surrender. The man who was carjacked was on his way to a job interview when he was innocently caught up in the action. As for the driver, he was later convicted of carjacking, evading arrest, and assault with a deadly weapon. In the end, the 2-hour motorized crime spree cost him a 13-year prison sentence. A sheriff's deputy joins the search for an inmate who just escaped from the Davis County Jail in Utah. The man was serving time for robbery when he pulled a knife on a cook and took her hostage. He then drove out of jail in the woman's car with her inside. Up ahead, an officer catches up with the inmate. He rams his SUV into the side of the smaller car, shoving it off the road and up against a curb. But the car pulls away, and the inmate and his reluctant passenger are back on the road. The inmate tries to lose police by racing through parking lots, while other cruisers rush to join the pursuit.
Looks like 5400 down. Right behind him.
The SUV remains hot on his tail as he jumps a curb, dashes in and out of another parking lot, then lands back on the street. Leading police on a dangerous chase across oncoming traffic.
We're northbound again.
The escapee turned kidnapper blasts down the city street as if it were an interstate. But as he approaches a congested intersection, the inmate makes a sudden left onto a driveway. The SUV barely negotiates the turn and comes to rest just a few feet from the front door. As the inmate makes a run for it and abandons the hostage and her car, he doesn't get far, and deputies soon have him in custody. The woman he took hostage at knife point was treated at a hospital for back pain she suffered during her terrifying ordeal. The runaway inmate was returned to jail and faces new felony charges of aggravated kidnapping and robbery, in addition to escaping from jail. Straight ahead on disorderly conduct. A clerk in a convenience store is repeatedly slashed and stabbed. And a suspected car thief bails and goes down hard. The hits just keep coming on disorderly conduct. Two suspected car thieves are on the run from Los Angeles police. It starts slowly, but before long, the driver cuts around cars by speeding down this shoulder. Then moments later, he decides to re-enter traffic and races across lanes. After he almost hits that van, the back door suddenly opens. Then this scary sight. You saw right. The passenger tumbles out of the moving car and his head slams against the pavement. While a squad car stops to check on the man, the driver travels a short distance. Then he jumps out as well. He barely avoids being hit as LA drivers suddenly see this strange striped figure in their line of sight. When the man exits the freeway, it becomes a foot race that the suspect will lose. In the end, the driver is charged with felony evading and grand theft auto. The passenger only faces the theft charge, but that doesn't mean he's lucky. He faces months of rehabilitation after fracturing his skull on the freeway. It's a slow night for this clerk at a convenience store near Minneapolis. He passes time by joking with one of his customers. But what happens next is no laughing matter. Two robbers suddenly leap the counter, and the clerk is in a fight for his life. One of the robbers has a 12-inch butcher's knife and repeatedly thrusts it at the clerk, stabbing and slashing him as his accomplice holds the clerk from behind. Despite being cut again and again, the clerk won't go down. He stays on his feet as the fight moves out from behind the counter and the man with the knife continues to stab him. But when the clerk breaks free, he grabs a knife of his own. His attackers want no part of him. They're off and running as he goes back for his baseball bat. The clerk calls 911 and waits for help to arrive. Despite the fury of the attack, none of the brave clerk's wounds are life-threatening. The attackers not only fled the store, they fled the state as well. But pictures of this violent assault were widely distributed to law enforcement and shown on the news. Both men were quickly arrested out of state and charged with attempted murder. Knoxville, Tennessee. Inside that maroon car is a lady on the run from the law. Someone allegedly saw the woman breaking into a house, and now deputies are determined to bring her to justice. She moves ahead of squad cars, but she can't outrun the sheriff's eye in the sky.
She's coming up on you right there at the McDonald's.
It isn't long before she puts afternoon commuters in unexpected peril. She ignores red lights and nearly hits a number of innocent folks who have no idea what's headed their way. After a few miles of madness, she jumps on the interstate.
She's getting on I-640 eastbound. I-640 eastbound.
Up until now, deputies on the ground have kept a safe distance.
Therefore, how many patrol cars have we got behind her?
There's just one unmarked car behind her.
But now there's an unmarked T-Bird on her tail.
Airwatch 4 units. Somebody get up at 403. We're on the interstate, light traffic. See if we can get her stopped.
That's an officer who usually works undercover, but now he's going to perform his duty out in the open. When traffic clears, the undercover officer makes his move. But he can't pull off the pit before the road turns. Then moments later, opportunity number 2. This time, the cop connects. The car rolls across the median and into the freeway wall.
Stand by, 45, 1 unit. Out with her now, we're on Millertown over the interstate.
The lady apparently tries to run, but she won't get far. A deputy uses his best wrestling moves to bring an end to this motorway match. Help soon arrives, and she is taken into custody.
Sufficient units on the scene. Everybody slow down. Sufficient units on the scene.
The woman gets hit with a number of charges from breaking and entering to aggravated assault. When disorderly conduct returns, an officer tries to stop a distraught woman from jumping off a bridge.
Trying to get away from me so she can open her door.
And police have no time to duck when chasing down this beef thief. There's more disorderly conduct headed right at you. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that it's almost impossible to outrun police. But for some reason, this driver in Canton, Ohio, thinks he can beat the odds. He recklessly races down the road at speeds up to 90 miles an hour. But if he thinks he can make it through this next intersection, he's flat out wrong. Canton cops can only watch as the 21-year-old driver slams into a flatbed truck. Now he finds himself sandwiched between the rig and the road with nowhere to run. He's taken to the hospital with a few broken bones, but that's the least of his worries. Officers charge him with failure to comply with police, as well as cocaine possession after they find bags of drugs in his car. Police in Orange County, Texas respond to a potential suicide call.
911.
Yes, ma'am. I'm talking to my wife on her cell phone. She said she's headed to the foot off the bridge to kill herself.
That's her in the silver car. The Rainbow Bridge in Port Arthur is the highest bridge in Texas, rising over 175 feet above the Natchez River. If she jumps, it's almost certain she will die.
Does she have dental problems, or has she ever done this before, or anything like that?
Ma'am, we just separated recently.
Sheriff's Deputy Mike Halsefeld is the first to locate the suicidal woman.
We're on the bridge at this off. I'm going to try to pin her driver's door in with my car so she can't get out.
The sight of his cruiser upsets her even more.
Pull over, he just wants to talk to you.
Time is running out as they approach the top of the span.
Trying to get away from me so she can open her door. I'm trying to keep it pinned in with my car.
The man pleads with his wife.
I need you to pull over, baby. Don't quit talking to me, Bobby.
She hangs up.
She's not answering me any longer. Okay, well, my officers are still with her.
Her car is now at the highest point of the bridge.
Stand by. Okay, she got around me.
Seconds seem like hours as her husband awaits word of her fate.
Okay, just hang on the line with me, okay? Okay.
Deputy Halsefeld has to assume the woman is serious about jumping, so he moves quickly to subdue her. The woman falls back into the car as the officer tries to get her on the ground.
Get out of the car! Get out! Get out of the car! Don't do this! Get out of the car! Get out! Get out of the car! You will be sprayed if you don't get out of the car.
Get back, I will.
Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to do so.
A second officer arrives while Deputy Halsefeld keeps a firm grasp on the woman to keep her from driving off.
Okay, come on, man. Move with me. Okay, I'll get away. Get away! I'm getting away.
The woman is irate, even if the officers saved her life.
Just trying to stop you from jumping, ma'am. I had to get to you as soon as I could.
Deputy Halsefeld calls it in.
Or just go for able to stop her here. We got it.
They relay the good news to the anxious husband.
The guys in code 4, they've got her.
They've got her?
It's gonna be okay, they've got her.
No charges were filed against the distraught woman.
I'm not going to touch you.
However, she was admitted to a psychiatric facility after her husband signed an emergency commitment order.
Get out! Get out of the car! You will be sprayed if you don't get out of the car.
A suspect is on the lam for stealing $77 worth of beef. The petty theft escalates into a big-time chase in Willowick, Ohio, when a grocery store manager calls police with a description of his van. While there isn't much money involved, any police pursuit can produce unexpected dangers. Part of a blown tire from the van ricochets off the cruiser's hood. The first car runs over the tire, but it narrowly misses shattering the second cruiser's windshield. It looks like the chase might be coming to an end. The damaged van makes its way to the off-ramp. Suddenly, the suspect cuts in front of the cruiser, plowing through the grass and jumping back onto the interstate. But he quickly changes direction and heads down the on-ramp. A cruiser moves to block his escape and is rammed by the van. The suspect can't seem to make up his mind about where he wants to go. He just doesn't want to stop. Police set a trap for him, but he sees the stop sticks and turns to avoid them. Riding on just 3 tires and a rim, the van hits speeds of 80 miles an hour as it races down a 2-lane road. At one point, the van runs off the shoulder and nearly crashes. Even that close call doesn't stop this reckless driver. Sparks fly from his rim as he enters a busy shopping district. He dashes into a parking lot to avoid a cruiser. But it's right there when he bounces back onto the street. The chase rolls until the suspect turns onto a dead-end street. Cruisers follow him up onto the grass in a small industrial park where he jumps from his van and makes a run for it. Officers are on him quickly, but the suspected beef thief resists, and police are forced to tase him. The bill for the stolen beef is chump change compared to the criminal charges he now faces, including numerous traffic violations, felony fleeing, felonious assault on a police officer, and of course, shoplifting. Moments away on Disorderly Conduct. A stolen van gets hit with a pit. And
Hands behind your back.
an officer gets hit with a tirade from a nasty drunk.
You turd-head son of a bitch. I wish I could get my hands on you.
There's more attitude ahead on disorderly conduct. Three young men in a reportedly stolen van add up to one perilous pursuit in Whittier, California. The trio blows through signals and stop signs as the pursuit winds through the city just east of Los Angeles. Speeds aren't fast, but that doesn't make the chase any less dangerous as the driver slices through traffic. As the action moves through a residential area, a TV helicopter reporter picks up the story.
3 units of police now behind the suspect. Left-hand turn, residential. Oh, collision. He's on his side.
When the driver turns, a deputy seizes the opportunity to execute a pit maneuver.
This is terminating right here. Now the officers are getting out of their vehicle. You can see some movement inside that van. Okay, the police officers are trying to break in through the front window. Their weapons drawn. Another officer guarding the back in case the suspect tries to make a break. Can't get those doors open. More officers moving in. Another officer with a shotgun moving in, taking the background. And at this point, okay, we got a Rin Tin Tin down there in case this becomes a foot pursuit.
But there won't be any need for the canine cops since these guys aren't going anywhere. One by one, the men are extricated from the van and placed under arrest. They're booked on charges ranging from grand theft auto to evading arrest.
This is going to be a code 4.
Cops direct traffic in Melbourne, Florida, while one driver doesn't pay attention. A second look shows the driver speeds through the broken stoplight, collides with a car that has the right-of-way, bumps the squad car, then finally hits yet another car off camera. In the middle of it all, an officer is forced to run for his life. The bad news is that 4 vehicles are headed to the body shop. The good news is that no people have to be taken to the hospital.
You're not driving too good this evening. You're driving on the yellow line. You're driving back there on the white center stripe divider. How much you had to drink?
I'm gonna have a couple.
Officer Joe Hogue has pulled over more drunks than he can even remember.
You're not even talking too well.
Well, we ain't said a whole lot.
Well, you're right. We ain't said just a whole lot.
But today, he's got one he'll never forget.
Didn't mean to act like I was some idiot.
The Tyler, Texas trooper asked what would seem like a simple question.
What level of education do you have? What was your last grade you went to?
Well, say about 17.
17?
It's time to check the guy's balance.
Look down at your foot and count for me, okay?
I can't do it. Don't laugh at me.
I'm not gonna laugh, sir. I promise you.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I'd be a miracle maker if I did this.
A miracle maker.
After a couple more tests, Trooper Hogue wants to see if the driver can walk the line.
You know a sober man can't do that.
Well, I can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Step over here, miss.
The man's feeble attempt at humor earns him a set of silver handcuffs.
You're under arrest for DWI. You've had way too much to drink to be driving. Put your hands behind your back.
God.
Despite being under arrest, This guy is more concerned about his vehicle than he is about himself.
Step over here. Hey, step over here.
First, he tries to get a passerby to park his van.
Hey, pull my truck up there and load it up. You know these people? No, but you didn't know me before you started acting up.
It seems he wants to have a stranger move his van so he won't be hit with a bill for towing and storage. But Trooper Hogue is having none of it.
Why can't you let that lady pull my van over and save me that hassle?
Because you do not know that lady. That lady does.
Damn the bull, hero!
Now the lawman has an angry drunk on his hands.
Ain't you the hero?
We can't just leave it in these people's
Yeah,
face.
right. Can't just leave it. Go by the book, you damn hero. Maybe I could have somebody come get it.
The man proceeds to let the trooper know how he really feels.
Mr. Hero, why are you such a alien? You want to cost me that kind of money?
When the tow truck shows up, the boozer goes ballistic.
You turd-head son of a bitch. I wish I could get my hands on you, you morphodite-looking, bald-headed, flash-eyed, cop-looking turd.
With that, the verbal fireworks are finally extinguished and the van is impounded. As for the man, he's booked for driving under the influence and taken to jail where he can rest both his body and his vocal cords.
So I'll beat you across this whole parking lot.
Cherry Sunday.